Okay, so there are a couple of things that we are trying to do, and so for that, let me create a new campaign. So let's say we call it test campaign. Okay, so when we create a new media campaign, at that time we don't specify the campaign start date and the end date. These two dates would populate when we create a new campaign item. Okay, so the new campaign item would be created from here, and based on that start date and end date, we get this campaign start date and campaign end date. Now, as soon as we create the media campaign, then what happens is that a new revenue schedule owner over here gets created. So after that, so basically this owner would be the person who would get credit for the campaign items under this media campaign. So we'll create campaign items over here, and then this revenue schedule owner would be responsible for them. So as soon as a media campaign is created, then whoever is the person logged in right now, like whoever is creating the media campaign, that person becomes the revenue schedule owner. So for example, if I right now I am logged in as system admin, and I'm creating the media campaign as system admin, but if I do that as Kim, suppose Kim creates a media campaign, so her name would come up over here because she created the media campaign. She becomes the revenue schedule owner. Okay, so the first revenue schedule owner gets generated. That is something in our code. So this gets generated as soon as the media campaign is created. Now the start date of this revenue schedule owner is the previous Monday when the from the created date. So media campaign's created date is today's date, which is a Tuesday. So the Monday which came before today, that was yesterday, that Monday's date is over here. Okay, and the end date is 1 year from now, whatever Sunday comes up. So 1 year from now is let's say, so let's go to 2019 February. So 1 year from now, next Sunday would be 24th of Feb. Okay, so that day we introduce that as the end date in the revenue schedule owner record. Now what happens is that we have a field in media campaign that's called as new revenue schedule owner and start date of the new revenue schedule owner. So now if I add any more campaign owners in here, so the campaign owner whose end date is farthest in the future, that campaign owner, his or her name and the start date comes up over here. For example, let's say I am creating a new revenue schedule owner. Okay, before that happens, let's create a new campaign item. So let's suppose I'm creating this new campaign item, and it starts in March. So let's say it starts on March 5th and it goes up till May 20th. So that way it goes on for a few weeks. Okay, so when we created the campaign item, that, as I said earlier, the start date and the end date is reflected over here in these two. Okay, and the same start date and the end date gets updated over here in revenue schedule owner, which is correct. Then what happens is, let's suppose if I'm creating a new revenue schedule owner. Let's say I am adding Amelia's name, and she starts not in March but in April. Let's suppose she starts from April 9th till the end. So when that happens, so what happens is that when I do that, then now Amelia is the owner whose end date is farthest in the future among these two. So her name and her start date gets copied over here in new revenue schedule owner. Her name and her start date gets copied over here. Okay, and then the previous owner's end date is shifted from one day before the start date. So this is how it works. Basically, we can add new revenue schedule owners in between as well. Now what we are trying to figure out is that we are trying to understand exactly how the test cases would be created. First of all, what are the scenarios that we should consider while creating the test cases and while creating the code. So like regarding the revenue schedule owners, so we want to consider a few scenarios. Like, let's suppose if we have multiple campaign items in here, and then if we add another revenue schedule owner, then what happens. And so just something that recently what we did is that if I create, so over here Amelia's start date is 4/09. Okay, now if I add another revenue schedule owner, let's say Doreen, and I add her on the same date, so the start date and the end date are exactly the same, then what happens? So I added this piece of code in which what we did is that if I'm adding Doreen like this, so in that case what is supposed to happen is that the start date and the end date of the previous owner would move a week before this. Like, for example, this is 0409. Amelia starts from 0409, so we would move her 1 week before that, so she would start from 0402, and end date would be 0408, 1 day before this start date. So this is something that we thought that if they create a new revenue schedule owner with the same dates, in that case what would happen. So we are not really sure about those scenarios as well. And then, so now right now Doreen's name is updated over here, Doreen's name and her start date. Now let's suppose if I update someone in between. So let's say I am editing this. Okay, now let's say if I we have these 3 records. Now let's say if I edit someone in between, basically actually we are very much confused with the scenarios, like what are the test cases, what should be the scenarios, and how we should create a document out of it, just to understand ourselves and to make them understand how it works. So these are our basic confusions. So yeah, like we just wanted to know, like when the start date, suppose campaign start date gets updated, then how it would affect on the owners. Let's suppose if this owner over here, let's suppose this owner was from February 19th till March 4th. and this one is from March 5th. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is that the campaign starts from March 5th and ends on May 20th. So in our revenue schedule owners, now let's suppose if we have one revenue schedule owner which was created earlier and its start and end date is this, which is before the campaign starts. So in that case, this is the date when the campaign starts. So now that if we update the campaign start date to be something in future, then how it would affect these dates. If so, in that case, Emilia's start date should be updated. But if this campaign start date gets updated sometime before 304, like before this end date, then it should update Noozhawk ads start date and not Emilia's start date, because in that case Noozhawk ads will be the owner till, because his end date is 3/4. So how to write that in a document? Like, what are we checking for? Are we first checking that the start date of campaign falls in which range among all of them? Something like that. So basically we are a little bit confused regarding these test cases. Once we decide the test cases, only then I can go ahead and test all these things, and I can make sure that it works according to what we need. Otherwise it takes a lot of time, because when I am testing, I go through some of the test cases and leave the rest of them because I don't know them, or I forgot about them. So it would be really helpful if we can create a document for it, and it would be helpful for Emilia as well, because she needs to know what's going on. So these are the confusions. That's what we are going to discuss tonight. Let me know if any of this, whatever I said, any of it makes sense, any confusions between the objects, how they work. This is something that we recently added, the new revenue schedule owner, that the owner whose end date is farthest in the future, that owner's name and his or her start date is updated in these two fields. That's something that we just recently added. Mostly it works. I think there are like 1 or 2 test cases when it didn't work yesterday. Probably, I think so right now I think Doreen's name is up there and Doreen's start date is there. Yeah. Now let's suppose if I update Doreen's start date to be something in future, 4/16. So that gets updated over here, 4/16. Right. But if I update someone between, which forces Doreen's start date to be updated. So now that Emilia's end date is 4/22, Doreen's start date would be 4/23. So now Doreen's start date is updated to be 4/23, but that does not affect over here. So that is one case where it's not working. So I'm not sure that's even I know that it's not working in this, but I'm not sure if that's a valid test case for, like, are they ever going to do this? Then so that's something that's not working, which I know, but I still want the test cases. So yeah, so let me know, go through this video and let me know if there's anything that you want me to clarify, or maybe you can ask Melissa, whoever is free, and then we'll discuss about it tonight.